In order to leave that much history and that much that you had built, like things have to be so uncomfortable. And they were so uncomfortable. We were miserable in Utah the last couple of years, and we never saw that coming. And that was a hard thing to reckon with. And how long do you put your misery just being like, well, this is part of life? How much is part of life and how much is like choosing to be taken advantage of?
Hello, everybody. So today we are talking about major life pivots, the kinds that you choose, not necessarily the ones that happen to you. But really, sometimes those type of pivots are the hardest ones because even when the decision is intentional, doubt and fear don't magically disappear. So I brought one of my dearest friends, Melissa Griffiths, back on the podcast. You might remember her from last summer when we talked about the incredible business that she built from the ground up. And we briefly mentioned the big move that her family was preparing to make from southern Utah all the way to northern Vermont. So that move has now happened, and I really wanted to dig into what that kind of change actually feels like once you're living in it. So Melissa, welcome back to Found at 40.
I love being here, Chrissi.
I love having you. I'm so happy that you're here. Oh my gosh. So tell me, what's been going on?
I mean, we did it. We got our house in Utah ready to be an Airbnb. I moved 5 kids alone across the country. My husband showed up the night before we were supposed to sign on this house, and then he left 2 weeks later again to go back to Utah. So I feel like I half moved us alone across the country. We got settled into a new house. I put my homeschool kids into public school. My high schoolers started at a private high school, and I have a senior. Like, so much has happened.
I just feel like just one of those things would be enough to be like, I'm good for the year. That is enough change for a year. But it's like you've had so many things, and that's just like wild. Because like moves, especially, I feel like at this point in life is very full. You have 5 kids that live at home. You are doing a move that, it's not a corporate move. It's not one where a company is packing you and moving you and unpacking you. I've had a few moves in my life and I've only had one corporate move, and I was like, this is the only way to go, obviously, because moving is so hard. Moving is so hard. But oh my gosh. So I just want to dive into like all the aspects of this. But first, you are in Northern Vermont. It is like -20, I feel like, where you are. Like, how is that life shock
That is
been?
coming this weekend. There's like a northeasterner coming. And I think the cold is in your area, but some of that cold is moving over to us. So I think it's 5 degrees right now. There's a solid 2 feet to 18 inches of snow on the ground basically all the time. When it melts a little bit, then the next day it'll snow more. It was 5 degrees when I was walking the dogs, but it's supposed to be like -20 this weekend.
Your town that you live in is not terribly far from the Canadian border, like as far
No,
as
we're like 40 minutes from Canada.
that's wild. So you go from southern Utah where it's like it is dry, it is hot. You do have winters, but really they're not
I mean,
that
I think it
intense.
snowed like a half an inch there this entire year, this
Yeah.
entire winter.
And you've gone to like a completely different like weather system. That's crazy. How is everybody adjusting to that?
I think all of us, the kids really like it. It's stuff to do. The snow is way more fun than just like a dreary winter because they can ski and people still snowshoe, and we have like a cool hill behind our house, so they're sledding. Like people are out and about. Vermonters are super active, and this lifestyle, like they're not going to slow down because it snowed, and we really like that. I have learned how to layer. Like I have like wool leggings underneath my jeans. I have on 3 shirts inside of my house. Like you do kind of get used to it. But this morning, a girlfriend got home from a business trip or something. She's like, "Do you want to walk?" So we walked for like 40 minutes, and it was 5 degrees.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is wild. I mean, you just adapt. You have to learn to adapt.
Yeah.
Like if you were, say, moving to Phoenix where it gets to be like, 120 degrees and there's just like a different way of life, you have adapted to the frozen tundra. So, well
Yeah,
done.
yeah. But I like that they don't just hunker down. Like things don't close. Like they still live their lives here, which is exciting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Once the snow hits this weekend, I guarantee you, like, my whole city will shut down. The kids will be out of school for a solid week. Nobody knows what to do. So,
I have not made any trips. I didn't plan anything since before I knew that we were moving. Like I just couldn't. I couldn't commit. I didn't know what the kids would need. We went to a wedding in the fall and I took everybody. But this weekend I have a trip to New York City planned. And now I'm like, do I cancel? Do I not cancel? It's so close now.
Oh
And I have
my
a friend, that same friend,
gosh.
she has to go for a work conference. So she's like, if you come, like, I already have to get a taxi into the city and I already have a hotel. And I was like, yes.
The answer is always yes. That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Now I'm
So,
worried I'm
well,
going to get stuck in New York.
there are worse things.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go back a little bit. Like, can you take a minute and kind of paint a picture of what your life in Utah was like? Like, how did you build that life and what did it look like?
I think that I knew from the beginning of my relationship with my husband, Thomas, that we would live in this tiny town. And so,
Like
in
tiny,
college
tiny
and
town.
jobs, like we had always been working to come back to this town. And we knew, like, Thomas thought about being a doctor. And then he got a few, half a year or a year into it. And he's like, I don't actually want this. And so he decided his family already owned a grocery store in town. And he said, I want to do
The
hardware
one
with my
grocery store.
yeah, I want to do a hardware store with my dad. So Thomas pivoted to engineering so that he could design and do the store. So we had been slowly for a lot of years, like getting his licensures, getting closer. Like every move, we would move a little farther south. So when we moved to southern Utah, it would have been almost 13 years ago. We just planned to live there forever. This was the only place we had ever planned to live. And Thomas did it. In those 13 years, we built the hardware store. We built our dream house with, we did triple paned windows and, fun things that you wouldn't do if you weren't planning on staying in a house forever. And we had land and animals and I homeschooled. So I feel like it unfolded, but I knew from the beginning that this was the life that we wanted to live. And then I grew cut flowers and we would, you know what I mean? We just handcrafted this really magical life that we really liked in southern Utah.
Yeah, so it seems like there were so many things that were working well and so many things that it's like, okay, this is the plan. We are on track. This is what we're doing. And like all these little things are leading up to it. In that season, was there anything that like felt heavy or like kind of signs that maybe things were not going to be going according to plan or like maybe like, oh, this is kind of going a little off track?
Well, not in a bad way. My business did really well for a season, and so Thomas did not have to work as much as he was. Like we had been he had full-time employment, he had part-time employment from the company he did his thesis and master's work with, and then he was still like building a house or remodeling or building a hardware store. Like Thomas worked crazy hours for a really long time. And so when my business started to do really well, he could cut back on those hours. And so I thought that it was helpful. I didn't see it as a negative. And then some of the other things, like it was inconvenient sometimes. Like I couldn't order a pizza if I wanted to on a Friday night. And one time a lot of years ago, one of my little fellers fell out of a tree and broke both of his arms. And so when you're driving an hour and a half with he was probably 10, 11. He was pretty young with both of his little broken arms to go get them casted an hour and a half away. You're like, man, this is really far away. And I had babies there. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't
Yeah.
convenient, but we were always making it work. So no,
Yeah.
nothing like I had plans on where I wanted to be buried. In Utah, if you own the property, you can be buried on it. There's this tree that I said, just wrap me in linen, bury me under the tree, and plant some flowers on top of me. I knew where I wanted to be buried.
That was the plan in every single way. Wow.
We invested so much into this life and into this future. Like we were really, really committed. Like this
You
is
were
what we
all
were
in.
doing.
But then, like, by your final, year or two in Utah, there was a lot that had kind of changed, right? I mean, did you feel like you were just kind of surviving, not thriving anymore? Because there were a lot of outside factors that were kind of buffeting you and like changing what life looked like?
Yeah, I think that in order to leave that much history and that much that you had built, like things have to be so uncomfortable. And they were so uncomfortable. We were really miserable. We were miserable in Utah the last couple of years, and we never saw that coming. And that was a hard thing to reckon with. And how long, like, do you put your misery just being like, well, this is part of life? How much is part of life and how much is like choosing to be taken advantage of?
Can you maybe dive in a little bit more onto, okay, I want to be buried here, to I've got to go?
Yeah. So we lost the family business. So we built a hardware store. We worked there. We planned on it being our retirement. And so I always knew that I would work some and I was working and it was going well, but I don't want to work forever. And blogging and working online isn't something that is going to last forever. And it's already showing that. The last 2 years have been really, really hard. I've lost 70% of my business. And so Thomas had something else. He might not be working full time or like have a corporate job for the last couple of years because he didn't need it and he's helping out with the kids and he's not punching a 9 to 5 clock, but he's still working. So the hardware store, the in-laws decide in a context that I cannot understand that they're going to sell it to a different sibling who does not even live in town. And that, like, we found out over a year, like we found out in an October, but they weren't taking over until the following January. So over a year later. So we're finding out and we're just like, what? What? We just felt so blindsided. We live next to my in-laws. We share a driveway. I take food over. We share meals. I never saw this coming, and I couldn't believe that his parents would do this to us, and I couldn't believe that the sibling would also
Be
initiate
complicit.
it and go through with it.
It seems so unfair. If there is no other word, I mean, it just, to me, it feels like a betrayal and just a massive slap in the face.
It's exactly like we were like gutted. Like it hurts so bad on a personal level and a financial level and a like life plan level. Like
Yeah.
this is what we were doing. Thomas was going to do it. We had plans. I thought my mom and dad might move out to Utah. We talked about it. And my mom was like, I could work in the cabinets and help with paint. Do you know what I mean? Like a little retirement job. My dad could do orders.
Yes.
I have a nephew that is autistic, and I always planned on my basement being remodeled into an apartment where people could come and go, but him coming down for the summers and being like a little bit of a caretaker reprieve for my sister. And he could come to the hardware store and he could help with shelves and he could help with people. Like I had built a future with this family business, and when it feels very much to me like it was sold out from under us. And that really hurt because we built it. It's the only thing that Thomas has ever commercially stamped. He stocked the shelves. We did not get paid for these years. Like we put in so much time and love and energy and effort because like you said, like this was the end. This was what we were going to do. And it was okay. We were buying into our future. And at the time, it was not a big deal. Like it was a big deal. Thomas had another job. I was still working. We had all these little kids. It was hard,
But it made
but
sense.
it was okay.
Because that was the dream. And you saw what the end goal was. Thomas saw what the end goal was. And then for it to all of a sudden, like, kind of poof, that's just
It was crushing.
crushing. That is the really seems like the perfect word. And I
Yeah.
mean, how do you, I'm not wanting to put the focus on Thomas's family, but like, have you ever been able to get true answers or explanation as to why?
No, and that was a really hard thing for us because I'm the in-law. It's not really on me, so I'm not having these discussions. We're not having family meetings. They're not that kind of family. And so when we first found out before the paperwork was signed, he would like go to his parents and he would sit on their couch for hours on a Sunday and he would say, could we try this? Could we do this? Could we do this instead? Could I do the hardware store and she do the grocery store? Could we split it? Could it support two families? Like, how can we make this work? And like, I feel like he was treated like a petulant child who was just being like greedy and naive. And then he would come back just sick over what had happened, but then he'd think about it. He's very smart, very analytical. And he would come back and he would think about it and think about the arguments and think about what was happening, and then like a week later he'd go and he'd try again. And so he probably did this for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then it just became not worth the effort. Like they could not hear what he was saying and nothing was going to change. And so paperwork was signed, and then 1 year later, ownership changed hands.
Okay. So it's like no matter what, there's no success at seeing eye to eye on this. Like their vision is they're not seeing your vision, and it's makes no sense. Oh, I mean, really, that is just like almost like a death. It is a death to your vision. It is a death to the plan that you had for your life.
Yes. It was excruciating. It was so hard, Chrissy. And on top of
So
this,
sorry.
we talked a little bit about this before. It's not like super public knowledge, but also in the middle of this for years, we're in the middle of like this like lawsuit with a neighbor over property rights and easement issues to just even be able to drive into our house. So now I live next to my in-laws. This is the only grocery store in town that we now like. It's so uncomfortable to go in and even like buy basics, buy our, this was our hardware store that
Yeah.
we built our house from. This is the grocery store that I've put in thousands and thousands of dollars, right? It's where I get my groceries. My
Yeah.
in-laws live next door, and then the people right around us are trying to remove access to our home. And so at the end, it just felt impossible to stay. I couldn't buy groceries. I didn't want to see these people. I didn't want every time I could hear a car go up and down the driveway, just be like, I can't believe this is happening. And then to have people, building fences around your driveway, it was just so accosting on my senses. And I don't think that I knew how bad I was feeling about it because I can like dabble in some like toxic optimism. Or I went through a lot of therapy about this, and my therapist would be like, unkind actions can have hurt feelings. Like I really like, what is wrong with me that I can't just be like making it okay? Why does this hurt so bad? Why is this so
Because it
miserable?
is so bad. It hurts so bad because it was so bad.
It was so bad and it
Oh,
hurt so much. And I tried to just will it away and just be okay, but I could not do it. And eventually we got to like, in therapy, she said something along the lines of like, if Melissa's business is supporting you and you have that flexibility, because mine's not tied to a location, she's like, what
no.
do you guys want to do? And Thomas just goes, I just wanted to own a hardware store. Like, this was my plan for all along. So that kind of opened the door of looking for hardware stores. So that year of the year we knew it was going to trade hands,
Hmm.
it probably took us 6 months of just being like bewilderment. And then, like, the last 6 months of that year, we started looking for other businesses because we needed a retirement plan too. Like,
Yeah.
we were planning on this. So we looked in U.S. Virgin Islands and Alaska and Texas and Indiana and Iowa. And then we landed in Vermont. And Vermont has a lot of mom and pop stores for sale because they love local. They love mom and pop.
Love that.
This is very Vermont. And there were businesses for sale here. So that's what got us to the area. And we actually were under contract for a store in the area. And then with the new administration and tariffs and like some of the unknown with all the lumber coming out of Canada and all the supplies coming out of China, we got a little bit nervous. And then when Thomas was here looking at stuff, a different business popped up, an apartment complex. And that kind of fit in our budget and what we had saved for a down payment for the hardware store. But now we wouldn't have employees in inventory. We would have tenants and huge, boiler systems to deal with. So we kind of traded
Hmm.
one business for another on a whim. And that's how we got here. We bought an apartment complex and we moved across the country with our children.
And I've loved following along the way because it's fascinating. I mean, you have this house that you've got that's gorgeous and this library and this idyllic, like beautiful environment. And so just seeing all of it, I really loved following along.
Yeah, and I think you said something along the lines of like it was a move by choice, and so I had some room to be picky. Like I didn't want to move to Iowa, and I didn't want to move to Alaska.
Yeah.
The business opportunities were great there, but I had some flexibility in like my business it's still doing okay, and I really wanted the kids wanted to ski and I wanted to be in a more progressive area and I love like the idea of Vermont. I had the flexibility to find some of that kind of pretty and nostalgic and cute. Like I didn't have to move to the middle of nowhere, Arkansas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of found it seems like a little bit like your own Stars Hollow, a little bit
Yeah.
if you're like a Gilmore Girls. So I mean, so there it's just been so cool and just a fascinating way that you kind of have gone about like narrowing in, okay, we've got to go. This is a hostile work environment. This is a hostile life environment. Even if, I want to speak out of turn, but like, even if, family isn't being outwardly like hostile towards you, just the actions that have been taken and then like the crazy lawsuit, like all of that, yeah, you gotta get out.
It was really, really hard on like my nervous system. Like I didn't realize how much I was in like fight and flight all of the time. Every time I'd
Oh,
hear someone like drive down my
you probably
driveway
all
or
tense up.
yes, I was like unwell in my body, and it took me a long time to realize that. It wasn't until I got here and I could calm down a little bit to realize like how sad and how hard things were in Utah for me.
Yeah, and like how dysregulated your nervous system had become. I mean, and really you've had some like tough health stuff. Do you think that any of that was like exacerbated
Yeah.
by kind of your nervous system being always on alert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Friends, listeners, lurkers, random people who have happened upon this dear podcast, let me tell you how grateful I am that you are here. Seriously, though, you could be doing anything, listening to anyone, and you are choosing to spend your one wild and precious life listening to this very podcast. I love that you are here, and I truly hope that you stick around for future episodes. In the meantime, I would like to ask you to please take a quick 10 seconds and rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you really want to go above and beyond, take a moment and leave a review. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please rate and review. Okay, back to the episode. So Melissa, like when your whole life, essentially like the future that you have, just, if you had everything written on a whiteboard, it just got wiped away. How do you grieve that? Because I'm sure that there's been a really real grieving portion that has had to take place.
I think I'm still in it.
Yeah.
I think that that's okay. I think I'm still in it. The grief has looked like tears. I I can't look at pictures very well.
Did you put that gorgeous painting up yet?
No.
Melissa, if listeners don't know, Melissa has this beautiful painting that was her view out of her back window of her property. And it was absolutely stunning, but not ready for that.
No, I did bring it with me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got it down and I said, I can't hang this. I can't look at this every day. So some of that, I think, I don't know if it is like an avoidance. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like attending to my heart.
Yeah.
But it has been a lot of, I haven't stayed well connected with people in Utah because I don't want to know what's going on there. And sometimes I have guilt about that. I had great friends,
Yeah.
but I can't know everything all of the time because it's different when you're missing out. And part of like this dynamic is my brother had built a house right behind us. So we like had a field and then a creek and then his field and then his house. So the
And like a
field
little
the
bridge
creek,
that would go over the creek and everything.
yes, and Thomas built us a bridge so that my nephews could safely get to our house. And our kids walked back and forth. And so raising my boys, specifically with my sister-in-law, she's become one of my dearest friends. Raising our children together across the creek was one of the most special relationships that I had. And my brother had moved to our little town to be part of the hardware store. And he worked there for a long time. And he also planned to do it again when we retired. And when we lost it, he lost his retirement plan too. And so they moved before us. So
Okay.
the January, a year ago in January, and then we moved in June. So 6 months before we moved, they moved to Missouri. And so I lost my nephews and I lost my sister-in-law. And that was almost helpful because sometimes like we were really sad at Halloween. Halloween was really fun. My sister-in-law would build like a big fire and have cocoa, and my brother would hook up this trailer and have lights and funny music and dress up, and we would just trailer along with all the kids on the back of the car and trick or treat. And so it wasn't the same here. It was really cold. It was trying to rain. We didn't know anybody in October, and my kids were really sad. But that life doesn't exist anymore. So there's an ease in knowing like my brother and my sister-in-law and my nephews aren't across the bridge. Like that is a different life. So there's been some ease in knowing that we're not missing out on everything because it just doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know. Mourning has been messy. Mourning has been therapy and writing and a lot of walking. But I also had to really lean into the idea that I made a choice. I could have stayed there. I could have stayed there and I could have healed and I could have tried to figure this out, and I didn't. And so I really, really embraced where I have landed. And so that has been part of the healing, finding reciprocal friendships and going to a grocery store where it doesn't trigger every sadness inside of you. And
Mm-hmm.
some of these things, like it's been healing to leave and it's been healing to be here.
Yes, you could have stayed, but at what cost?
Right.
Wow. Okay. So one thing that kind of it's on such a smaller level, so it's really just like, but it does relate a little bit. I mean, do you remember when we lived in Utah and Ben worked at the shop? So for anyone who doesn't know, my husband, he worked for a small business. It was an auto repair shop. He managed the front office. He was kind of like their like operations manager, and he truly had the dream of being a partner at this small business. And, you know, there had been kind of conversations, just nothing official, but it's like, oh, yeah, we would love for you to eventually be on board, you know, and be part of this. But the longer that he worked there, our timeline did not jive up with their timeline. Would we have ever become partners? I don't know. But we also didn't want to wait around forever for something that maybe wouldn't have ever come to pass. Like, and how much regret we would have had if we were like, we wasted a decade at something that never happened, right?
Yeah.
So we also, that was like part of our reasoning. You know, there were a lot of reasons why we chose to leave Utah, but that was one of them. It's like, okay, time for a fresh start. Like, we are going to change gears.
And we had a similar experience. Like he asked his sibling to sign a paper that said we had the first rights to buy it if they were going to sell it, and they wouldn't sign it. And that, I think that was like the crushing aspect of it. You know, I think that we probably would have held out hope if we would have thought, well, one day, if they're done, we can still buy the store that we built. And when they refused that, like all hope was lost.
That's when you knew, like, it's not happening. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. So by the end, you were so uncomfortable in your town, like you said. So much discomfort, but now it was like, okay, time for a change. We're going to be uncomfortable in a new way. And so you found your town, which seems like checks so many boxes, been so good in so many ways. But really, that's a lot of change, and it's not easy. I'm sure there have been growing pains. Have there been any experience of like, what did we do? So I just had Kaylee on the podcast. Kaylee Esselborn, your cousin. Oh my gosh, we had the best talk. She shared one of her favorite quotes, and it was from Dr. Becky, and she said, "This feels hard because it is hard, not because I'm doing something wrong." And I feel like when you have like these big life pivots and you're like, what did I do? I just changed it all, and it's so hard, and we're all struggling, and we're all like feeling like we're in a free fall. Like, it feels hard because it is hard. Tell me a little bit about kind of the tricky parts of completely pivoting your life, uprooting, even if it's for a good cause, even if this is what you know you need to do. What has been the tough parts?
Yeah, I think in Utah, I spent a lot of time in that opposite. Like, what is wrong with me that I cannot fix this, that I cannot be okay with this, that I cannot tolerate this? Like, why is this so hard? Like, I made it like a moral failing against myself that I couldn't just get over it. And I was really fed that. Like, I'm the problem because I don't want to get together for holidays with these people. Do you know what I mean? Like, why can't you just get over it and be okay with what's happening? And I really internalized that. It took me a long time. So when I was moving, I feel like I took this mentality of like, of course it's going to be hard, and we're ready. I almost did not give myself permission for years in Utah that it was hard, because I just didn't want it to be that way. I wanted it to be something different than it was, but when the truth of the matter was, it was really hard. I had a really hard time accepting it. But moving, I was like, this is going to be so hard. I'm moving these kids. We're going to public school. So almost it was like that shift was really helpful. Like, we just expected it to be hard. And so we kind of battened down the hatches, and we did hard together. And I brought my favorite people with me. And I moved a junior in high school to start her senior year across the country. And she's played volleyball for like 8 or 9 years with the same team. Like, she left so much. But in the discussion of like, we're going to go and we're going to go together, she told me like, we were doing it together. And I think that mentality of like us coming and really committing to this. And I honestly was like, please don't come back for college. Like, please don't go all the way out to Utah for college. Like, I know that would be easy, and toured those campuses and your friends will be there. Like, stick it out on the East Coast a little longer. And she has been so excited and she is going to go. So I didn't plan extra travel. We didn't travel for the holidays. We didn't go anywhere for Christmas. Like, I needed to kind of stick it out with my kids and be there in mass for them and for myself, and prioritize some of the health stuff and take a minute to kind of reset my life. And I went in with that intention, and I feel like we've done it.
Oh my gosh, Melissa, I love the mentality. I love that mentality of like, in order for roots to grow, like you have to let yourself be still. If you're hopping back to Utah, if you're doing all the travel, or if you're not really letting yourself really settle in, like those roots aren't going to grow. You're not going to feel settled if you're still kind of in two spots, right?
Yeah. And we really wanted to invest in this community. So I paid like a local guy to hang up Christmas lights on our apartment complex because I just felt like it was like this good foot forward. We're part of the community. We want to be here. We're not out of state slumlords. Like, we plan to live here. We plan to raise our children here. We plan to have them go to school. And I volunteer at the library, and I have been part of pie sales, and I'm going to be in a chili cook-off, and we're showing up. We want to be part of this community like we had been in Utah. Like, we had invested a ton into our community and into those around us. And we weren't going to come here and not do that too. We moved to start over.
Well, I feel like the through line is like the things that make you, you, the things that make Thomas and Melissa and the Griffiths family, like those things, it wasn't just dependent on this Utah life, this Utah dream. It's like, these are the things that are matter to you. And I love that you have so quickly found the ways to be like, this matters to me. I'm plugging into this. I'm plugging into this. I'm making my community. And you weren't burned completely by the idea of, my community will turn on me, or whatever. It's like you've been burned, you have been severely burned, but like, gosh, the fact that you're just diving in, I feel like I admire that so much.
Yeah, we went from a town of like 800 to a town of 8,000, and so many people like feel like this is super rural because we're up by Canada. I don't know, but it feels so different because it's 10 times bigger. But if we would have been in a town that was 100 times bigger, a town of 800,000 or something, you know what I mean? Your Nashville and surrounding area is a large, large area. We would have been uncomfortable there because we were like going from so now we're like country mice and we just barely moved to town mice. And so that has been really fun, but also having 10 times the people and some of the anonymity of not everyone knowing you, there's some convenience to that. It's nice.
Yeah, and like you think of your daughter, she's not related to half the high school. She could go on a date with somebody, beyond the two other boys that are not her cousin, right? Like,
right. Oh, she's been very excited about that.
She is so cute. Oh my gosh. Tell me a little bit more how the kids have adjusted, because you've gone in, this is a family move. This is a family thing. It's not just like, oh, dad got a job transfer and we're all, having to come here kicking and screaming. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
I'm a big dialoguer with my kids. We talk, and we talk a lot, and we talk about where you're at and how you're feeling and the new things that you're hearing at school and what's going on. And we came here saying we're going to do this together. We're going to go on this adventure together. They had input on where we were going. They had input on, the things that they were looking for and what they wanted. And we did make this decision together, even though it came down to like mom and dad made the final call, of course, but our kids were part of the process. And so here it has been like that. And I've been really honest with them. Like, I went to a college in Indiana, and it was kind of hard my freshman year, but I liked it after the first semester. And then after that year, I moved right out to Utah to start school my sophomore year at a different college. And so I had a whole nother like freshman year of moving colleges, and it was really hard again until after Christmas. And so I just kind of like, I shared that personal experience with them. I said, it's probably going to be pretty uncomfortable. And then you're going to go back from Christmas break and you're going to say, I belong here. I know that. And so just these past few weeks, because it's the middle of January, every single one of my kids said, you were right, Mom. I knew kids. I feel settled here. So it was like giving them permission to be uncomfortable and not love it and miss people. and have this full expression of emotion while we embrace we found like let's try all the pizza places until we find our favorite and let's go to all of the lakes to swim in them until we find our favorite. Like the novel and the new kept us going and we had space to feel all of our feels and miss our people and talk on Marco Polo and call and cry and do these things. It was mixed enough with the expectation that it won't be like this always. And that proved to be true. And they held on to that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, as you're saying this, I'm like literally thinking of like, like a rope or something that like everything's kind of loose. And then like your family, it's just like you tighten up. You've like been there for each other. Your kids were able to, they have the space where they can voice their grief and their concern and they're missing, everything that they were raised with. Because it's like, this is a life shock for everybody. And so
yeah, with the heavy hand of razzle dazzle in the missing. Like we love where we landed. So it's been such a nice experience to hold both. Like being so enamored with this new place and these new things and these experiences while also feeling lonely and a little awkward and not having been to public school. I feel like the public school adjustment was our biggest. And I knew that it would be. Okay. It would have been if we were at home. And so we kind of like double fisted it with the move and public school.
Like, let's just do it all.
Yeah.
A question I have for you is like, okay, it seems like public school is a tough part. Like, what surprised you about all of this that was like easier than expected? Like you were bracing yourself for maybe a lot of trouble. Like what came a little bit more easily to everybody?
I think that the kids in general, there was not like they liked being here. I only probably had one door slam with, I can't believe that. Like, why are we even here? You made me move. Like,
you ruined my life.
5 kids. Yeah, I had it once, and it was with the most teenagery one, which you know what I mean, because they're feeling the most feels. Like, of course they are. Like junior high is a train wreck. I thought there would be a lot more like, I can't believe you did this to me, and there wasn't. And I think people online assume that we really miss our house, and I have been shocked at how much we do not.
Well, because also you didn't leave at the peak of the everything. It's like you had this wild stuff. There's the family stuff. There's the wild neighbor lawsuit stuff. And then with your brother and his family leaving, kind of like the glitter had already left in a lot of ways. So it's not like you were leaving at like the peak of the golden years, right?
Yes. And the actual house, like, it was lovely.
Beautiful house.
It was a beautiful house, but it's just a house. And I think that I always knew that. I liked it, but it's a lot to clean. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't mind a little cozy house with nice woodwork. Do you know what I mean? Like, it smells like mildew a little more than I would choose. But I wasn't so, like, the house was not my entire personality. It was lovely and it was convenient, and we have fond memories.
Yeah.
There, but it was not who I was. And I think that maybe I must have made it look like I felt differently about it. Leaving the house was easier than I thought that it would be. I thought I would miss the actual physical home more. But we just brought you know what I mean? We just made this a home.
Well, and I think you being, more outward facing on like the online space, it's like, okay, people see the pieces of the Melissa puzzle, all right? And they might only see like 20 pieces of the 40-piece puzzle or 50-piece puzzle. And so they just put it together and they assume like, oh, Melissa posts a lot and we see her house and everything. So therefore, Melissa's house is her everything. Where it's like, it's something, but it's a house. It's a beautiful house.
I actually think I miss my garden more than I miss the house.
Yeah. And living in Vermont, you're in a completely new zone. And so you're going to be learning all sorts of cool gardening things that would flourish in Vermont that would die in Utah and vice versa.
Yeah. New learning curve.
Gosh. New learning curve. And I feel like, really, gosh, when you think of Utah, it's like, okay, you were comfortable there in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, obviously not comfortable, right? You had a lot of hostility, but it's like, okay, this life that you'd built for yourself and the things that you had been doing, like, your home, your garden, all of the things with your business. It's like the comfortability is nice, but also it does not force you to grow. This is not just for you, but for your kids. It just seems like this is such an opportunity for growth that would not be able to be achieved if you would have said, we're going to stick it out. We're going to stick it out in Utah.
And there's a certain amount of like resiliency that you can develop, and it's almost like a muscle, like what you're talking
Hmm.
about. And I sheltered my kids from many, many things. Do you know what I mean? I was excellent at
Hmm.
making their lives idyllic. And
Yeah.
so for them to have to come on this journey where they are going to grow because of hardship, even if it was chosen hardship, like I know that we're not going to regret it on the other side.
There's going to be some tricky things along the way, but like that's just life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like let's talk a little bit more about change because it's like, we said there's a lot of change that just happened and it's like even good change, it takes a toll, especially when it happens all at once, right? I mean, you said only one of your kids really has had kind of the hard time of like, rah, but I mean, you think of I was thinking of the things that happened. So you moved across the country, your kids started new schools, the daily contact with family and friends, drastically changed. You and Thomas, you're renegotiating how everything works in your family. There's been a shift of identity. I mean, there's new schedules, new routines, new logistics, all the things. And while all of that is a huge net positive, like it still takes a toll on your nervous system, right? I feel
Yeah.
like what is it? There's this scale. Oh, it's the life change index scale. Have you ever seen that? It's like it measures the major life stressors and like it's not just like oh the bad things, but it kind of it has a list of 43 life stressors. And like obviously they said number 1, which is the top life stressor, that is measured is when there's a death of a spouse. Like that is the highest life stressor. And then there are things like divorce, marital separation, like jail or prison, the death of a close family member, major illness, personal injury. Like those are all like the top stressors. But then in the middle of it, and then at the low end of that 43 is like things like traffic tickets or minor law violations. But like in the middle of it, it's like a move, a job change, having all of these things. So it's like you've had a big chunk of these stressors. And so it's like, you know, it measures in your life, in your body of like, oh, this is different. This is and not necessarily that it's bad, but it's like, okay, this change, it is a stressor on my life. And so I love that you said that there are certain things that you've really done to like lower kind of like that feeling of overwhelm, like getting really involved in your community and doing your daily walk. I love you almost every day you post it on Instagram, like the temperature and things that you're seeing and like just being able to see your life. I've loved that. Is there anything where you feel like the stress of like, okay, this is taking a toll, like emotionally or physically or relationally? Like, has there been any negative and also kind of like positive? Like, tell me some of the changes you've seen in yourself.
I think that I have prioritized my health better, but I also have more time. Like,
Hmm.
God bless the working homeschool mom. Like, I dedicated a lot of hours to a lot of other people so much of my life. So to
Yeah.
have the kids in school for these hours a week, like I get my walk in as soon as they're out of the door at 7:40. I really try to prioritize it because if I wait, I don't do it well. And I am having an existential crisis when it comes to my work because it's so unknown right now. And it's been so
Everything's
lovely
changing.
for me for so long, and it feels like it's pivoting. So I am just like sitting with some of the discomfort instead of just like pivoting quickly and being like, why can't you just fix it? Why don't you just be? I feel like my inner critic I have softened because I had to.
Yeah.
And so that has been good. But even like money and budgeting and where we're allotting our time and our resources, I've had to be more intentional about it
Hmm.
because the kids in homeschool and busy work schedule just did kind of mandate my time and my day. And so now that I have a little bit more of it and I don't know what direction I'm going with work and my kids are not here all day, like I've had to decide how to use my time and what to do
Hmm.
with it and then reckon with some guilt if I feel like I wasted my time. I do have like productivity equals worth issues.
Okay.
And so having like stepping back from major productivity, like I'm not tending animals in a garden and a business and farmers market and my kids' school, like I really have much more time than I ever have, and that has been a reckoning.
Yeah, like that white space on your calendar of like, what am I going to do? And if I'm not doing something, a tangible thing, did I waste my whole day?
Yes.
Figuring out how to measure the worth of your time.
Yeah.
So much growth though, Melissa. Like really. You wouldn't have been able to have it if things would have just stayed the same, if your business would have stayed the same. And I mean, I know there's been a lot of growing pains, and there are things that probably are like, oh, dang it, AI, you ruined everything. I guess from, like a work standpoint, but gosh, like, yeah, you're really learning new things about yourself. And I think that's so valuable.
Yeah. And like friendships and reciprocal friendships. And what is our marriage like? We made it through the first 20 years. You hit 20 years not so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we hit it in December. So, we made it to 20 years. That feels like a huge accomplishment. And I don't think that I knew that. Like I just thought getting married, of course, we'll make it to 20 years.
Like,
And now that we actually made it, I'm like, congratulations. That was a lot of work.
yeah, but
Like
also
not in a
like
bad way, but in a real way.
in a real way. Yeah, it's you've done a lot. There's been a lot of like heavy lifting, emotionally and like physically in your life. But now it's a recalibration right now of
Yes.
like what is life. So tell
That's
me a
what
little bit
I
about that.
think that I have been getting to like with the time, like where am I using my time? What do I want out of this relationship? Like if you really are starting over with a blank slate with friends and location and money and kids and their
Hmm.
education, like what is your priority? What really
Yeah.
matters? Where are you putting your finite time and resources into? Maybe this is midlife. Maybe this is actually what midlife is. Like, if I only have X amount of years, like, my daughter is leaving me. My only daughter is gonna, how dare she go to college in the
I
fall?
know. How
Do you know
dare
what I
she
mean?
grow
Like,
up like
this
it's
is my
oh
last Christmas with all of my kids in my house for all of December. And so I have been that preciousness, and I've been listening to a lot of like memoir, self-help kind of books with people
hmm
who have had major loss, like they have been finding me. And like
yeah.
that idea of, time is precious and also there might be a lot more of it. I think that holding that paradigm is what I'm looking at. Do you know what I mean? I could be here for 20 years or I could die tomorrow. Like you have to
Yeah.
hold the paradigm of like living in an intentional life, and also there is the business of life. We need to be crafting the marriage that we want. We need to be figuring out what retirement does look like. So doing both of those at the same time with some kindness and grace is really where I've put my time and my energy, because that's what this move is mandated.
It's mandated intentional living. You can't just let life happen to you. You have to decide this is what we're going to do. These are our goals. This is how we work towards said goals, right?
Because we just had such specific goals literally from the beginning of our marriage, and we knew
Hmm.
exactly what they were and we did them. And so when that rug was kind of pulled out from under us, like we really have had to like start over.
The concepts of like self-authorship, it's like the development stage when you are no longer living by the external scripts or like the expectations of other people. You have to start choosing that internal alignment, really. And that's what happens in midlife, really. I mean, we
Yeah.
reach that point where we're like, what are we going to do for us and our lives? And not just because, say, in laws have this expectation of us, or, whatever life that was modeled to you, do you have to have that same life? I mean, that self authorship is really, it's important. And I feel like there's so much to, I think of like do you follow, what's her name? Just Being Melanie at the We Do Not Care Club. It's
No.
all about, oh my gosh, she's this cool lady who's, it's all about perimenopause and menopause, but it's like, welcome to the We Do Not Care Club. Like these are the things that we don't care about anymore. And it's all very funny, but it's also so real. I'll send you some of her reels, but it's like you are living your life now by your own compass and not what is expected of you. That is absolutely so real. That is so real on this age and this stage, and it's important.
Yeah, and it's a huge deal.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of you. I mean, it's like, the research, it shows that this is the season, this is like renewal. This is not decline. This is like not bad things happen. It's like, no, we are making it happen. This is what you did, Melissa. It's like you realize it was time for a pivot. And there are hard parts about it. There are heartbreaking parts about it. I mean, saying goodbye to the life that you had planned of, forever, like down to where you were going to be buried in this beautiful spot. But gosh, the life that you are now building and the experiences that you would have never had and the connections and just the growth, I feel like that's so amazing.
Thank
And
you.
I just love you and I'm just so proud of you.
Sometimes you just need to hear that, right? I really appreciate that. It's been hard, and you know what I mean? Of course there's self-doubt of like, what have we done?
Like, what did we do? I mean, that's, yeah, after we left Utah, like two months after it, I was like, what did we do? Because kind of the bright, shiny novelty had worn off, and then there were some new hard things that I didn't expect. And then it's like, why did we leave the stability? Why did we leave all of this? In my situation, your situation, we're not identical, but there is a little bit of overlap in the Venn diagram of like,
Yeah.
we knowingly did this.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, if we wouldn't have left Utah, we wouldn't have eventually made it to Tennessee, which I feel like that is, for us, like that is where our family has hit its stride. And it's like, if we would have stayed where it was comfortable always, I would have never had all of this. And I feel like that really carries over to you too. Like if you would have just, and there's not anything wrong with anybody staying in the same place always, but like sometimes your soul knows it's time for a change.
Yeah. And I keep telling my family, I was like, we opened the well of possibility. Do you know what I mean? Like we had a known future, and it was comfortable, and it was kind, and it was safe, and well, not always kind. It was, you know what I mean? But
Neighbors get hostile.
yeah. But opening up a well of possibility for them and their lives and their college experiences and their new jobs, like what an incredible opportunity to embark on together, and to, you know, be well resourced enough and intelligent enough, like to have all of these things that really set us up to be able to do it. Like how lucky are we that we can do it and that we're going to?
I feel like I want to have you back for like an annual check-in of like, how's it going? Tell me the things. But like, I guess kind of just some final questions for you. So knowing what you know now, what would you have told Melissa 10 years ago or 5 years ago? Would it have changed anything?
I think 10 years ago, me would be terrified. I think 5 years ago, me would be so relieved. Like, we're going to be okay. Because that, when it got hard, I was still really comfortable. I would have, 10 years ago, I don't know. I would have been scared of me now.
Yeah, you would have been like, who is this
What is
woman?
happening? What have you done? But 5 years ago, I was like in the middle of quite a bit of like internal life changes and refiguring out how I was going to relate to the world that I had grown up in and currently lived in, and it was really uncomfortable, like on a deeply personal level. So I think I would have found a lot of relief knowing that like we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Last question. If someone who is listening is at a crossroads right now in their life, what would you want them to feel?
I think that friendship and community will always feel far away or maybe inconvenient or like you don't know how to do it. And those are the things that will save you. Do you know what I mean? Finding someone to walk with or to get a coffee with or to have over for dinner, like it feels inconvenient, but those people, chosen family or family, will be the lifeline. I think that the more that we can create connection and community in our own lives, like the stronger that we will be in them, because we heal in the context of community, because we're people. We're social creatures. We were never meant to heal and be witnessed in a vacuum. And the more people that you can gather to you in the midst of your transition and your change that can witness what you're going through, the less lonely and abrasive it will feel. So I just think that community and connection is a magic potion that we are not great at right now, but I think people are craving, and it's worth sorting out.
I love that, Melissa. I really do. And I feel like that's so true. Like connection is what we need. Like, and a lot of times when we're going through a hard time, when we're feeling like life is either falling apart or whatever path that you had identified for the future, like seems to just evaporate, like you kind of want to, and there is a time to kind of like, you know, go inward a little bit, but like, don't make that your permanent place of inward, because it's like, yes, having that community, that's what makes all the things that are new feel like home.
Yeah, and I think that we can assign friendships to different roles. Like my sister-in-law helped me raise my kids, and that was incredible, but it's a very different role than the person that you're going on a walk with and like kind of like spilling your guts to, which is also a really different role than maybe a support group. So I think that like finding the different people to fill the different buckets, because it doesn't have to be all one person. I think that we peg a lot on a partner or on a parent or on a sibling.
Of you're
To
my best friend, you're my person, you're my everything.
Yeah, and that's a lot of responsibility. So I think the better that I got at like finding different people that helped, grow up different parts of my soul, the more nurtured I felt. So don't feel like you failed because one person doesn't do it all for you. I think it's pretty normal to have different people for different conversations.
Yeah, and just like, okay, I think of your friend and I don't know how involved she is in like your whole life, but it's like this is the person you walk with in the morning, but does she know, your children the same way as, like a friend who
Exactly.
might be more of like
My
a
neighbor that I
family
grew up, you know
friend.
what I mean? Like that neighbor in Utah who we raised our kids together, my sister-in-law. No, they are different people. And so it's fun to have those connections for like different parts of yourself.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming back, for being a two-time Found at 40 guest. I just love you endlessly. I so appreciate your time. I love reconnecting with you. And yeah, you're the best. You're wonderful.
Thanks, Chrissy.